It's all about getting to know what you're doing and researching, digging deeper to find out the answers.
Okay, what's your current unit of inquiry?
Where we are in place and time.
And we're also doing how we express ourselves as well.
I'm Sarah Beckhouse. This is my first year teaching PYP and my first year at Bucklands Beach Intermediate. I teach year 8. So this here is our year-long inquiry, and I like it to have its own space in the room so it doesn't get mixed up with the current inquiry that we're running. And it's not tidy because I like it to be the children's work on the wall, not my work. So they have a lot of hand of how it looks, how it puts up on there, and we will work on this throughout the year. We always have the key concepts that we're working on, and we always make sure that the central idea is always visible.
To understand the unit of inquiry, to understand the lines of inquiry and the central idea.
So how do you do that? I mean, you get given this sentence at the start. How on earth do you know what it's supposed to mean?
So we do this task at the start where we find synonyms and definitions of all the words in the central idea. And then we write our own central idea to suit us so we can understand what the unit of inquiry is.
Okay. Can any of you tell me what a wonder wall is?
A wonder wall is like where we write questions that we have about the like the topic, like the inquiry, like currently we did questions on WIPAT, like what is the difference between conflict and war, what is conflict and what is war.
Okay, so do you think asking questions is an important part of inquiry?
Yes.
And does your teacher help you to make questions?
Yes, she gives us prompts about what the unit of inquiry is so we know what questions we should be asking about the unit of inquiry.
Okay, and during the inquiry, do you ever get a chance yourself to answer your questions?
Usually throughout the inquiry our questions are answered during our learning.
So year 7s, we looked at the central idea and they chose either an interest, a value or a belief, and they could create either a representational work or an abstract work, and they could only use coloured paper, wallpaper samples and magazines. And here are some examples of what they made. This one here is about leadership. The circle in the middle is the student, and all these shapes are people and things that influence him and he influences them. And down here with the wallpaper samples represent his emotion.
So technically our unit of inquiry is where we ask different questions, and we extend more about our questions that we ask. So for example, for sharing the planet, we never knew what biodiversity was when the teacher asked us any questions. So we expanded on it and we learned about biodiversity, what are the impacts and the threats.
So this is our wonder wall, and at the beginning of the unit and periodically through the unit, the students will write questions with their wonderings. I like to touch the wonder wall every week, 10 days, and the students will revisit it, and this is completely student-led, and they come and collect a light bulb off me when they feel like they've answered the question, and then they'll attach it to their question or their wondering. But also saying that, we always have wonder warm time, so they might talk to another student who can answer their question, and another student might come and put a light bulb on going, I can answer that for you. So that's our wonder wall.
So how can you do 2 units of inquiry at the same time? How does that work?
Well, we're doing how we express ourselves over the year, and right now, so like we do it at period 5, and for where we are in place and time, we do that basically every day.
This book, it's my STP book. It stands for Sharing the Planet. It has my title page in it, and like all the work we do about STP, the topic of inquiry.
And so what's a line of inquiry?
A line of inquiry is our smaller subsections which we talk about and we look deep into.
Did you get to ask questions at the start?
Yes, we got to ask questions to get what we needed to know, but then we also as we found out our answers, we'd get more questions and we could dig deeper, do our own research.
Good.
Keep on
Okay, and so part of that process is always reflecting. Do you get time to write reflections?
Sometimes we have to reflect on our work, knowing what bits we can improve on and what bits is our next step.
Looking deeper into things and also asking questions about it.
Yes, we get to ask our own questions so that we understand more and we can know more about what we are learning about.
Can you tell me what is a wonder wall?
A wonder wall is where we put all of our questions on sticky notes and we review them at the end of the unit of inquiry to see if we've learned everything on the.
And what if you haven't learnt it?
If we haven't learnt it, our teacher will often go over it so that we understand it.
Can you remember the question you asked?
I think we asked about identity and our culture, and I think my one was why is identity and culture connected together?
Okay, and at some point do you feel like you talked about that in your class?
Yes, because when we did how we expressed ourselves, that was about who we are, our identity, and our culture.
Inquiry is like a topic where we delve deep into something that we don't exactly understand at first, and then we learn through everything that's part of it. So all the key concepts, the transdisciplinary theme, etc.
We usually think of our wonderings and what we want to know about that specific topic, and then we slowly go through the different things in it.
This change, responsibility and perspective. Responsibilities of what we're responsible of, what we have to look after. Change is what has changed, what there was and what we have now. And perspective is looking through someone else's view, right? So
Another person's point of view.
It's let's say a zookeeper, so I'll have to think like a zookeeper.
I use the concepts really as a provocation to every lesson. I think it's really helped the learners to understand how the concepts can be transdisciplinary between subjects. I start the lesson off with sort of a student question, relating to the subject of that day. So for example, I've got how it works function, and I try and relate that into other subjects, and then specify how that works for that particular class. They change depending on what lesson we're doing and what the focus is, or the unit of inquiry.
So Debbie, can you tell me any concepts from the Sharing the Planet unit?
One of them is perspective.
How come you can remember perspective?
Because we did this worksheet and it had the words perspective in it, and it was basically you had to explain what you're seeing in the picture and explaining.
What was the theme of the film that you're making with your specialist class? It's based on a concept.
Perspective.
Yeah.
Perspective, change and causation.
Responsibility, how they can change in perspective.
Okay. And so what can you tell me about one of those concepts? Pick one.
So for example, responsibility is how we can preserve New Zealand's unique environment and biodiversity, and also how we can raise awareness about our environmental issues.
Any of the concepts in the unit you're currently doing? Without looking.
Causation, form, perspective.
Very good. Do you know any of the related concepts?
Are those attributes?
No, it says related concepts. I want to see how fast you can find them. Go.
Consequences and impact.
Good.
So we can understand more with perspective because we learn about how different people see different things.
Do you ever have collaboration in your class?
Sometimes our teacher will let us go in teams and we have to work as a team and fund the research,
and do all the research, summarize some of the work we do, and then we present it. Yes, we had this big piece of paper, and there was an image in the middle, and we had to basically write everything we saw on the outside
and what we thought on the other side.
So as a teacher, how do you get to collaborate?
As a classroom teacher, we get to collaborate across our units of inquiry as well as our standalone subjects. In a team, there's a team of 4 teachers in my team at the moment. We get to plan our units of inquiry. Firstly, we start the unit of inquiry planning at the beginning. We get together, we talk about ideas, sharing ideas of how we might start the unit as well as our summative task. Throughout the unit of inquiry, we collaborate by sharing resources. We've started using Toddle this year, which has been really helpful. Toddle has helped us to see each other's resources quite quickly and easily online, and then we've been able to share ideas as well as use some of their resources, or they can use some of mine, and we collaborate that way as well. Towards the end of the unit, we're working on collaborating to do our summative task as well as reflecting on our unit. As well as that, across Year 7, we also collaborate and have time to plan together. While we were working on our units of inquiry, making sure they were looking good at the beginning of the year, we were able to sit down and have a chat about what we wanted our students to focus on this year and during each unit of inquiry. As well as that, throughout the term, and I know in the holidays we've got coming up, the Year 7s are getting together and having a planning meeting for the next unit of inquiry. So we try really hard to get together and talk about the units of inquiry and share ideas and make sure everyone's on the same page and has some ideas to do in their classroom.
So on top of collaboration, is there also a chance for you to custom elements of the unit for your class and for your class to custom it themselves?
Absolutely, that comes from our wonderings. So from our wonderings in the beginning of the unit, I have a look and see what we're thinking about doing, and that kind of also guides my inquiry. Although we have this collaboration at the beginning and throughout the units of inquiry, I'm also able to take it the way I want to in my classroom. So from that, I collaborate with my class and we share ideas of where we want the unit of inquiry to go. So using their wonderings to also help guide my planning.
Yes, we get to work in groups and collaborate well, and usually sometimes we get to pick our groups and sometimes our teacher gets to, but we do get to work together on things.
Okay, and what about in your other classes, like when you're doing mathematics and literacy and stuff like that, do you get to do much collaboration?
Yes, usually when we do maths, we work in little groups to people that have a similar stage we are at, and we each help each other to try and understand it.
So we had to use science to think about it, and we also had to use our reading to read stuff, and we had to use our writing skills to write things.
Yes.
Just because I'm teaching technology doesn't mean it's not transdisciplinary. In fact, often I have to remind myself that what I'm assessing the students on is technology and strands from the New Zealand curriculum from technology. For example, when the Year 7s are studying where we are in place and time, it often falls around the time of Matariki in New Zealand, which is the Māori New Year. A big part of Matariki, a big part of the myth and legend is kite making. And so I make kites with the students. Now there is loads of transdisciplinary learning in this. There's lots and lots of maths involved with measuring and cutting and symmetry. There's lots and lots of science. How does a kite work? How does it fly? Why is my kite spinning round and round in circles? What do I need to do to modify and change that? Lots of science. There's quite a bit of art involved too, as we encourage the students to put cultural designs and patterns that are relevant to them to personalise their kite. And along the way we read many of the myths and legends about Matariki, and so there's a lot of rich literacy involved too, and of course Te Reo Māori.
So we have literacy tasks that involve the war, like reading war books and war stories and doing comprehension questions on that book.
Okay, can you prove it? Has one of you got something there? So what have you got there, Elaine?
So we were given a book and we were reading one of the articles called Lest We Forget, and then we had a bunch of questions. We had to find evidence
and state whether like the text was true or false. And we also worked on our vocabulary.
And so when you started that, was that when you were tuning in, like at the very start of the unit? Or are you actually doing in literacy as you go along?
As we went along.
Yeah.
In math, we continue the IB approach. So normally when we're about to start a new topic, I like to put a provocation on the board to get children wondering about what it could be and what we might be looking at. And here's one that I put up before we started standard form. And then the students got to think about what numbers could be that big and how it works. It just sort of gets them interested in the new topic.
As teachers, we think about a word which is transdisciplinary a lot. That means you're taking all the different subject areas and skills and trying to use them all at the same time. Do you think that you ever get to do that?
Yes, a lot, especially during inquiry, we're thinking a lot. So we need to use lots of skills, thinking hats, all that kind of stuff to get as much research, as much work done into our projects.
Like for how we express ourselves during lockdown, we had work to do, and we do cultural celebrations, and we had to find all the research, summarize it, and then we had to like make a poster, video, present it, and that was basically researching skills and also design.
Yeah, all of the books are like to do with like war and conflict and that sort of thing.
I like them to really think actively about what approach to learning they're using. So this group here, Stacey, Larry and Gordon, they get a light bulb at the end of their project, and they have to write what they think skills they use to complete that task. So here, Larry's written research skills, thinking skills and communication skills, because they obviously researched, they had to think about the information they got, and they had to work together to complete the activity.
Do you feel like your teacher only assesses you at the end and gives you a mark, or do you get lots of feedback as you go along as well?
We get a lot of feedback as we go along, and then at the end of the term or the unit of inquiry, we do get a mark with some feedback.
Okay, and so the feedback that you get as you're moving through your unit of inquiry or your other classes, how does that look? How do you get feedback?
Often we'll get feedback about what we could improve on to like make our work better.
Next steps.
Yeah, and to know our next steps.
Good. And do you share those next steps with your parents as well?
Yeah, at our parent-teacher interviews and at our three-way conferences, and we go through all our next steps too.
Yeah, and do you have some kind of like portfolio or online portfolio that your parents can share as well?
We've got a title portfolio which is online, and we've also got our paper portfolio.
Welcome to my student lead conference. This is my mum and this is my teacher, Miss McLean. Today I'm going to share some of the things that we have been learning this term, a reflection of my work ethic, and discuss what my next steps and goals will be. During this term, we have worked on the unit of inquiry, who we are, how we express ourselves, and where we are in place in time. I'd like to share my learning about sun safety and my WWA goals. In mathematics, I've been learning about algebra and numeracy. In writing, I have been working on stop, drop, and write tasks, which is creative writing and developing sentence structures, and how to structure essays. I'll show you my stop, drop, and write. And then this one, the orange was short sentences, and then the red was simple sentences. My attitude and effort in class is pretty good towards most areas in learning. I believe I try my hardest in everything I do. I need to work on understanding math equations a lot better though. 2 IB profile learner attributes I demonstrated this term are open-minded, because I try my hardest in things that are new / I don't know how to do. 2, communicative, because I always share my ideas and speak to others if I need help. Thank you for taking the time to come to my 3-way conference. Do you have any questions for myself or Mrs. McCoy?
I just wanted to thank you for your work and sharing your work with me. It looked like you've done such a lot of work in your inquiry book and your maths book, and I would quite like to look through your portfolio if I could. Yeah, just to know how you're going. One was just to talk about Georgia's reading, because she's always been a really, really good reader. That's always been the subject she did well in. That's really clarified that. You are still reading, doing a good job in reading. Yeah, and she's reading at home. She's really enjoying the Literacy Circles book. Yeah.
I will comment on Georgia is your work ethic towards your literacy circles, which I've actually popped down on your report. Every single week, Georgia's finished the task well ahead of time, but she'll come to me, clarify, hey, this is what I've done, do you have any feedback? Thank you, sure thing. So she's always seeking on how she can improve it, but I can see how much time and effort she puts into every single task she does, so it's something that you really take pride in, which I admire. Like, it's fantastic that you take so much pride in your work, so I think you do that really well. You're quite a risk taker, because I know you're probably more of a reserved student and you'll share your ideas if I call on you, but you're not one to maybe go, hey, this is my idea, which is why we use the sticks where I pull your name out sometimes. But I would like to maybe see you work on that a little bit. So I know if you're in, say, a group of 4, you're probably a lot more confident and I can hear you kind of bring your ideas to the group. But I would love to see more of that when we're on the mat, because I know you're listening, I know you're really attentive, and you've got great ideas, but I'd love to see them come through and work on your contributions in whole class discussions. That's another thing, you can view that on the Total portal, which is really cool. What are you thinking?
Like something towards math.
Something towards maths, okay. What's an area of maths that you feel like you want to focus on?
Like division and yeah, basically just division and some multiplication is hard.
Okay, just digging a little deeper, are we talking decimals, like multiplying and dividing decimals, whole numbers?
Decimals.
Decimals, okay, so shall we make that a goal for you for next term?
Yeah.
If you would like to write that down, that would be wonderful. And see how we go. But thank you both for coming. It's been great.
Thank you.
And have a great afternoon. It's done. You can relax now.
It's a summarizing task where we just put all of our understanding into a document or a poster or anything, and then we show the teacher what we have learned and how much deeper we've understood the topic.
Okay, can you give me an example from the work you've done so far of a summative assessment?
So for our Who We Are, we did I think it was like a 4-part summative assessment, and there were like many inquiries and they asked us to like show our understanding for our work.
As a team member, how do you get to reflect on your unit of inquiries?
We often meet in a team and we discuss the unit together, and we write our reflections on our unit planner on Toddle at the moment, and we often discuss what we would like to say, and we would collaborate to write those together.
For our summative task, we had to choose a specific item, like a piece of clothing or food, like a specific brand of a food or clothing, right? And then we would have to write about it, like how you make it, like what you take from...
circular economy and the linear economy. Like if it's like a linear economy, it's take, make and dispose, and if it's a circular economy, it's
take, make, recycle.
Take, make, recycle, yeah.
So it's like a circle in a line.
So as you can see, this is our essential agreement. And then under the essential agreement, each student has their own pocket. And throughout the term, throughout the week, if I see a student demonstrating a particular learner profile, I'll give them a slip which says what I saw them doing and why they got that, and it goes into their pocket. And then when they get 5, they get some banker bucks, which is our in-class reward system. But the reason I like this is that it's very easy for them to always pick out the same learner profile attributes. But by doing this, it's giving them meaning to all the other ones. And I always try and use the ones that perhaps aren't as easily explained to them.
So not all the people in your class learn at the same rate or in the same way. How do you think your teacher allows people to learn in different ways?
We each have our, obviously we'll have different wonderings because some people will know more than others and some people might think differently.
Okay, Elaine, you have different groups for maths and literacy, right? Yeah. So when those same groups are doing the unit of inquiry, do they have the same task, or is there maybe, can you tell there's different levels of difficulty?
Yes, we do, but most of the time she gives us a task where we can like put our own opinion to it. So like a research task is like an opportunity for you to show how much you know about this topic. So some people, like Zach said, you might not know a lot, so you might put like a little bit in. But if you do know a lot, you can put all your knowledge into it.
Okay, as a digital class, how might inquiry be different? And what are the most valuable resources for transdisciplinary learning and inquiry?
As a digital class, we use a range of resources online. We actually share things maybe slightly differently than other teachers, but we're doing similar content. For example, on Write That Essay, we use that frequently because we have access to devices easily and we're able to write about our unit of inquiry using a resource like that. Toddle's probably our base for sharing a lot of our resources through Google Drive as well. But it also allows us, having devices allows us to explore using different types of media, being able to make videos easily, digital art, etc.
Well, for in class, we all always use it for our work. No matter what the work is, we'll use it for Toddle and different documents and designing posters. Out of class, we'll use it sometimes for homework and sometimes for other various filming or other mediums.
Like period 5.
Yeah, okay. Do you use your devices to collaborate?
Yes, so we usually have like shared slides, for example, our literacy circles where it's all like in a single slide, or when we have like group tasks and we kind of do it on one device or like shared for multiple.
Okay, and when you're working online, if it's by yourself or collaborating, does your teacher see it and give feedback?
Yes.
Or we turn it in.
Yeah.
In your class, do the students use Toddle?
A lot, yes.
Can you
Toddle
tell
is
me
our
how you
main
use it?
Platform. The teacher will post work. She can also make announcements for our homework, and we can use Toddle to find our templates, get the resources, and we can do research and post everything on Toddle on the journal, maybe for our parents to see, and we can also hand it in for our teacher.
We also like have our homework is also posted on there. So at home, when we're doing the homework, we go on Toddle. We see on announcements. She will have a post about all the homework we do, and once we do the homework, we submit it to the teacher, and if we want, we can also submit it on the class journal so your parents can see what you've been doing.
And do your parents ever check up on you?
Yeah, so they can comment on our journal posts. Yeah, you can like them. So they can see we've been linked up with the Toddle Family app, so they can see what we've been working on at class. Yeah.
So we started our Toddle journey at the end of last year, where we had the opportunity to trial it just before the end of 2020, and it allowed our staff the opportunity to have a play around with it and sort of buy into the platform. We had 2 professional development opportunities at the end of last year, and then another one at the beginning of this year. So from there, all staff had the opportunity to play around with it, and it's now starting to be implemented into our classrooms. It is in different stages within the classrooms, though most classroom teachers are using it for their day-to-day distribution of tasks, as well as allowing it as a collaborative tool. And we're progressing towards it being our portfolio, where we're uploading evidence of our learning, goals, and assessment that we do, and reflections.
In addition to that, across the board, it's also covering all of our units of inquiry, including the specialists, right?
Yeah, so all of our units for both Year 7 and Year 8 are on there. The specialist teams are planning their cycles using Toddle. And obviously with the unit planners being on Toddle, it makes it really collaborative, and everyone in the whole school can access it, but they can also be adding and contributing to it. The platform allows us to really unpack where we're going with the unit, and then within the unit flow allows us to really break it apart.
It's easy because you have all of your list of your overdue tasks, your tasks that have just been assigned to you, and you can click on it and open up, and if you click on your task, and it usually comes up with a brief of what we're supposed to do, and then it can come with like resources, like maybe like an attachment of like maybe like a book or something to read, and then we can answer questions in a Google document linked to it.
And does your teacher use that to give some of that feedback that we were talking about?
Yes, because
there's a private chat.
There's a private chat where she can give feedback to us, and then she can send back our work so that we can make it better, and we submit it again.
Have you had a chance to show your parents your Toddle stuff yet?
Yes, at home.
We use it as like a place to put all our work and learning on it, and then we can get assignments and put our own work on the class journal and add notes to it.
Okay, so obviously your teacher uses it as well. How does your teacher use it as far as you can see?
She uses it to check our work and to evaluate our learning.
Going forward, what we're looking to do with Toddle is, obviously this is our term for the last 10 weeks, 11 weeks, have been working on our staff having a go and building confidence with the platform. As we move forward, we would like to see staff using all aspects, so using the portfolio, using the classroom aspect, being able to assess students through it, as well as doing their daily planning through it. Obviously all of our unit planners are on there, so it means that we're always linking it back to our unit planner with the work we're doing, but obviously it's a long-term goal of by the end of the year, all staff are confident and regularly using it. And obviously it's a learning curve for some of our staff. It's a digital platform, which is a change, but it's a positive change that allows us to be more collaborative.
And also, we're the first school in New Zealand to use that platform, so I believe that they're collaborating with and through you to improve it using our dual curriculum, is that right?
Yes, so that's probably the other benefit to Toddle, is the fact that we can run both the New Zealand curriculum and the PYP curriculum framework through it as well, and we are allowed and able to access both. So it's the positive of being able to run the dual curriculum.
Yeah, I do Trees for Survival.
What can you tell me about Trees for Survival?
It's pretty cool, and we learn a lot about the environment and the different plants that we're using, and pretty soon in term 2 we're going to be able to go out for a planting day.
So you actually get to do action as well, you get to plant. That's good. What about you, Drove?
I am in the making a TV show at Tuesday period 5, and in the morning TV shows on Friday with my group.
What do you do in the morning TV show? What are you going to do?
We are going to make 2 small segments, the Get to Know show and Writers Friday. It's like one Friday we interview teachers, and then the next Friday we read out some writing or something along the lines of that.
Okay, and are you in any groups or anything like that?
Yes, on Thursdays in the morning just before school, I'm a part of Leo's club.
What can you tell me about Leo's?
So Leo's is things to do with fundraising and helping the community fundraising is just a small part. Helping the community is the main part.
Yeah, and you learn to become leaders in that, don't you? Because don't you get the rest of the school involved as well?
Yes. Yeah, we do.
And so do they teach you how to do that? Or do they just say do it?
It's more of a they help you through the whole process, and they're always there if you need some support.
Can you tell me about the sports, physical education and health and wellbeing programs at BBI?
Okay, well at BBI we offer, well there are many opportunities for all of the students to be involved in physical education and health and wellbeing. We obviously the classroom teachers run physical education programs within the classroom, and those physical education plans are linked to the units of inquiry through the concepts. We also have a dance academy at BBI that involve many different disciplines of dance, and those children train before school, during school, and we have a lot of competitions during the weekend throughout New Zealand. And there's also a hockey academy that's well underway as well.
I was going to add to what you're saying about PE as well as the concepts. I know that we always talk about like linking them to the lines of inquiry and also the attributes, because they go all through the year. So they fit in really nicely with the health PE curriculum. They're easy to apply in the outdoors, so we can refer to being a risk taker and all those things. We did our first unit of inquiry with who we are for both year levels was cooperative games. So, but they had different focuses depending on what their year level we're looking at. So I know when we do the planning, we do look at what's going on in the classroom, so the teacher's using the same language. And currently with the striking unit it's the same. So when we go out to speak about causation and things, it's actually like what is causing. So it's a different perspective when it comes to applying it to PE, but using the same language just reinforces some of the messages.
We also have, I suppose if you like to call it, like elite level sport, which we're organising at the moment, so the Anchor Aims Games. So children would usually trial to get into various teams, and it's like at a national level. But we also offer many opportunities for all children to be involved in sport. We have like an after school basketball program that's a drop-in that one of our parents runs, and that's free for children. It's been very popular for boys and girls, year 7 and year 8s. We also have a sports challenge shield that's run during lunch times. We have like a run club in the morning, which is open to everybody, teachers included. So there are many opportunities for all levels, whether that be elite or just children wanting to join in. So there's
orienteering's another one, where it's promoted as for everybody, an opportunity that unlimited numbers. And then of course we have got other sport codes where we have to select teams and have elite, so hoping that we've got the profile of catering for everyone.
What can you tell me about our success at Aims Games?
We love Aims Games.
Aims is our little baby. We started about 10 years ago. I think this will be year 11. And we take a large team, so even within our team we have an elite range of athletes, but we also have a core group of athletes who, from my personal thought on Aims and its purpose, is sometimes it's a motivation for children intermediate to have a career in sport. It doesn't necessarily need to be a child who is excelling at the moment, but it's a direction, and sometimes it's a huge motivation for them to be successful in the future and know that there's an opportunity for them. And then some of them take on quite interesting sports and like are risk takers, so that we do like multi-sport and the yachting, which is in really fierce conditions out on the harbour in Tauranga. So some of the kids really push their boundaries and show all those attributes, some of their codes.
And we've had lots of success over the 10 years, particularly the last probably 7 or 8 years. We're one of the largest travelling groups from out of the Bay Plenty area that travel to Tauranga to compete. So last year we took 100, the year before, 160.
We usually take around that.
Around 160. They go away for anywhere between 7 or up to 7 days. We have won Aims Games.
2017.
Yes, which
#1 country.
Which was that's a massive achievement actually, because it's very hard to knock off those schools from the Bay of Plenty because they can enter every event. But we have finished in the top 3 for the last how many years? A number of years, and
5 or 6 years probably. Yeah.
And we've been the top
5 since we started.
Schools.
Top 5 schools since we started.
So
and now there are about 320, 340 schools that participate in the event. So.
And it's not just from New Zealand, is it?
No.
They normally get to come from other countries.
It was titled the International Aims Games, so it's been called an international event for a number of years. They used to have a big contingency from Australia and the Pacific Islands. Yeah.
So what are some of the reasons we have morning fitness?
Well, obviously just to get children moving, to get their brains engaged before they start the day. We've also talked as a staff about, the concern, I suppose, these days with a lot of children on devices constantly, parents working a lot, so, a lot of children some children aren't able to be involved in sports after school. So yeah, we've found it really beneficial. Diane's really pushed that, and I know that, teachers have talked about, that it's really, they've seen the improvement in the classroom. Children, as I said, being engaged and being sort of switched on right from the beginning. So
I think the initial reason we started doing it was actually a Dylan William philosophy around keeping students active, but also the morning fitness and the start of the day and building a routine. So I think it got sparked from the idea that Dylan William had and was shared with us as a staff. Yeah. And just the idea of our fitness program is that something is for everyone as well. I think it's really important because they do a rotation and it's not boring. So if a child doesn't like running, that's okay, because the next week they'll be throwing, or the next week they'll be skipping. And what we like is that there's a variety, it's a bit of a slice of everything. And it's going to change, the next week. They're dancing, or they're doing skipping, they're doing running. We do some agility activities. Some of the fitness spots encourage circuit training. So it's encouraging them to be actually lifelong, learners in terms of fitness. They want to, do it when they leave school, and knowing that I guess they can do it as an individual. They don't need to have a team. Like in lockdown last year, if they were able to apply some of the things they'd learnt by doing fitness spots, for example, then they'd be able to, do it at home in their lounge. So something for everyone.
It's also provided some leadership opportunities for those children who are really good at sport and perhaps don't succeed as well academically in the classroom. So that's an area for them to shine. And I know that we've had some kids that are really leading fitness and really enjoying it.
And it's led by the kids. So we have fitness monitors that set it up as well. So there's a group of fitness monitors, and there's only one teacher, but a large group of students, and their role and responsibility is to be out there and to set up, and also lead the classrooms and help support the teachers through the various activities on their first station, really.
Yeah. And in the last few years, we've had a really big focus on health and wellbeing. Can you give me 1 or 2 examples of initiatives or programs that we've taken on to boost that?
So we start the year rolling with who we are and the Hawara component, and there really is a sound component to both the Year 7 and Year 8 program. So both in Year 7 and 8, we consider that to be a real core value of who the child is, knowing who they are, and how all the dimensions of Hawara, we call in New Zealand, meaning their wellbeing, can impact their life. So that's a push, and from the start of the year, then we can refer to it throughout the year. There's a health component in all of our areas, or all of our inquiries throughout the year. So there's always a focus around that topic, whether it be another one we did for who we are this year was the UV. So we did healthy eating, and then we also talked about looking after yourself. We did the UV bead experiment. So students were understanding their UV rays and what protection they needed to help them. So various units will have various components to health, as well as the physical education. which they need to be aware of, and we are relating it to whatever aspect. Yeah, we can.
In terms of our own pedagogy, we've had some professional development, so we've had professionals coming into the school and taking staff meetings and assisting us in that way. And we also, we have like professional learning groups within the school, so one of our professional learning groups has been looking at health and wellbeing and is also looking at how that is, or how we can implement health and wellbeing into the classroom and through the units of inquiry.
It's not that long ago that you were at your primary schools. Did you do any kind of inquiry in your primary schools?
Yeah, we had inquiry topics, not necessarily PYP, but it was very similar. We did have to use thinking hats, we had to do research, working collaboratively and independently to work on our projects.
So Wendy, you've been teaching PYP for 7 years and you've just newly joined our school. So we only teach the PYP for 2 years, years 7 and 8.
Yes.
Can a student be immersed in PYP in just 2 years?
I believe they can. It's definitely an additional challenge due to the fact that there's so many concepts, the learner attribute, the approaches to learning, so many things that they have to almost do double time to catch up, but they are thrilled with the ability to learn conceptually. And for the first term or two, it has to be more primarily teacher-led, but then afterwards when they've developed the student agency, their critical thinking, then they're ready and eager to get on with it.
How did your teacher teach you about, like, what is a key concept, what is a central idea?
We had like classroom talks. There's plenty of posters that we could look at that had all the stuff that we did for inquiry.
What do you do to get the students up to speed?
Well, the most important thing is repetition. In the beginning, they're introduced to all of these amazing concepts and this new way of learning, but they need the scaffolding and the support throughout the year that every activity, every assessment, every task, every learning experience is the teacher models it for them. Yes, this is connecting to the key concept. This is connecting to our unit of inquiry. This is connecting to the learner profile. Or, oh, I see that you're being a risk taker when you took on that new challenge, and then it helps them to develop the understanding, connect the dots, and just slowly but surely build that greater awareness.
Kia ora. The way I'm integrating Te Reo Māori in my class is by using commands and phrases. I'm introducing myself to the new Year 7 learners to BBI with my full whakapapa and my pepeha, which has been a great challenge for me and good learning for them. During my lessons, I will refer to some ingredients and I have started to add those into the actual visual recipe, the script, so that they can have the English word and the Māori word next to it, just to help deepen their understanding in their reo language.
Tell me everything that you do in your class and out of your class that might relate to Te Reo.
During period 5s, we usually do some Te Reo activities. So one period 5, we had to have a small conversation with the teacher in Te Reo saying, "Hi, how are you? I'm good," in Te Reo.
Good. Do you ever use it at other times, like in your unit of inquiry or in literacy or anything like that?
It depends on like what kind of text it is. So like if it's more like a New Zealand based like speech or something like that, we'd probably start off saying like kia ora.
We'd go into the words, the Maori words in the text. If there's no Maori words in the text, but it's still New Zealand based, we'll try to find the Maori information.
O te whanau, ko Shona, toko ingoa, ko Ngāpui, ko Ngāti Pākehā te iwi, ko Kaimau te marae, ko Waikaramu te roto.
Devastating news today as we learned the fate of the Avengers.
我们已经2天没有和他们联系了。सब लोग Avengers को ढूंढ रहे हैं दुनिया भर में.
Itahi tangata whakaora rātoa he. E roto I Aotearoa.
I really love connecting what happens in design and textiles with the classroom program, particularly around the concepts and the unit of inquiry. So with the older students, with our year 8s, they are studying where we are in place and time, And so what we looked at, we began by looking at war propaganda, because the context for where we are in place and time, it happens around the time that New Zealand celebrates Anzac Day, and so they were looking at the events of World War I and II. And so in Design and Textiles we looked at war propaganda, specifically the Keep Calm and Carry On poster and the history around that. It's great that it's so old, that there's no worries with plagiarism, and then the students have an opportunity using the computers to design their own personal propaganda. So this one is Create to Be Calm. They're really quite creative and clever with the different slogans they come up with. We then transferred that image to a screen printed it onto donated fabric, and the students learned how to sew and sew their own tote bags. Quite high value for the kids, they love using them, so that's one way we connect. With the Year 7 students, when they're studying how we express ourselves in class, in design, we look at emotions, particularly emojis. So our project is to create an emoji cushion. But what we're studying along the way is Ha'ora, which is the Māori model for health and well-being. We look at correctly identifying our emotions. We look at active listening and being able to move away from snorkeling type conversations and move to the deeper scuba diving conversations. We look at the art behind movies like Inside Out, and how animators have tried to capture emotions. So there's lots of rich talking. We learn how to say how we're feeling in Te Reo Māori, and we're learning about technology and creating a cushion of some sort of emoji. What's really cool is in the past, the action for this project has been students that finish early have created a series of different emoji cushions which local therapists are actually using in their play rooms with young people who might be struggling to identify how they're feeling.
That's really going to stop it.
Okay, so I'm just looking at the Year 7 program of inquiry, and we're up to sharing the planet at this stage currently, so I thought I'll use this as a good example. The essential idea is people have a responsibility for their impact on the environment. So this project here is a weta motel, and what it involves is the students, the end result will be a weta motel. This is something that goes in the garden for a weta to go in the hole and live in. We look into what's the relevance of a weta, with it being a native species. We look into the material. What material are we using? We're using plastics, we're using wood. And as responsible citizens, how do we use plastic appropriately? And by doing this we look into videos such as pollution in the marine environment. We look at Sumatra, the rainforest, how it's been destroyed over time for wood, the use of wood. So we'll look at those options, and that's all created by decisions from humans. And we look into where does our wood come from, is our plastic we use recyclable, and this involves lots of class discussions, research, reflection before we even start the project. As you can see, there's some 3D printed parts of the project too. Also that's plastic, so we look into what grade of plastic is that, is it recyclable, is it not, and so forth. On the board here, one of our inquiries is looking into how living things are suited to particular habitats. So that's with the wetas, we're looking to, obviously it's a New Zealand native species. Why is it native to New Zealand? What is a weta? What are their characteristics? A lot of students don't know much about them, so it's a really cool insect to dive into. One of our other inquiries, which does link to our central idea here, an inquiry into the marine pollution, deforestation, like I said earlier. That's really good for just doing unpacking before we even start the project. Key concept, obviously responsibility, ties in really strongly with it all. Us as human beings making responsible decisions through how we've been educated. Related concepts, habitat, of course that works really well with the weta motels.
So of course on top of all of that you also cover the New Zealand curriculum and you work within the technology strands, don't you?
Yes, we do, yes. So for this particular project, a very strong part of the strand is recording and looking into our sequence of operation. So that's where students record regularly, step by step, what they're doing, almost like a diary, reflecting on what they've done each day as far as the resources used, tools, techniques, and if they can do that, that does tell me that their learning journey as such. Not all students can obviously get it on paper, so another method is I'll sit down and I'll chat to them, I'll work alongside students throughout the cycle, and that's another way of sort of getting an understanding of their learning.
We also look at the attributes, and so sometimes I just highlight keywords within that the phrase or the meaning there, and just try and relate that specifically to food and technology. I find having them just here helps me to focus on it. I guess focus on the lesson and focus on which one's going to work for that day, and definitely helps their understanding.